Hello everybody, I'm Ard, and welcome to another episode of Minecraft Enigmatica 2 Expert. This week, we will not be building the... Wait. We built the roof. This week we'll be fighting dragons? No, that was last week. Okay, so I guess we're just going to do some basic housekeeping this week. How does that sound, guys? So I kind of want to build towards making a mob farm. And to do the mob farm easily, we need to start getting into Industrial Foregoing. And to do Industrial Foregoing, well, the very first step is to unlock the gate for it, because we have not done that. It's the last of the tier 2 ones that we haven't even opened up. And to do that, we need to build a machine case. Thankfully, the machine case is actually fairly easy to build because we already have most of the pieces. It's just some reinforced stone, which is easy to make, an advanced machine casing, which, we got 2 of them last week from quest rewards, and then a bunch of rubber, which, well, we have. So let me go slap this together real fast and let's move on to the next step. And just like that, we're done with that gate. So let's go pick up our toys here, which is another water source, a Latex Processing Unit, and a machine case. Now that we're inside Industrial Foregoing, we need to start the chain that lets us make plastic. So let's start by getting our manual for this, and move on to the Tree Fluid Extractor, which is how we do it. And the Tree Fluid Extractor, we need to work with the Latex Extractor to make the dry rubber to make the plastic from. So this is actually pretty easy. It's just an iron gear, some stone, a furnace, and a redstone. Alright, so I've got the Tree Fluid Extractor made, and I carved out a spot to put it back here. One of the other things we need to make to automate this was the Cyclic Block Placer, which is pretty easy to make. It's just a dispenser, some stone, some iron, some redstone, all easily made stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this here. One of the other things I needed for this were some Ender IO conduits, because I'm going to need to do it to save space versus using the item ducts. Not upgraded, they're pretty slow, but we don't need to move very fast through these right now. Up until recently, I wasn't actually able to make these, but I did have a pulsating iron ingot from a loot chest, or not a loot chest, a chest in a dungeon somewhere at some point, or a village, so I was able to make it from that. But turns out I actually can make these now, and just completely slept on the fact that I have the alloy furnace and I can just make these. So this is something I can start replacing my ducts with if I need to save space for. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by placing the block placer right there, across from that, and then we're going to turn it a few times to get it facing down. I think that's the right spot. Let's open it up, let's turn it on, and let's put a spruce log in and see if it places it, or actually turn it on. Nope, it's not facing the right way yet. Let's turn it again. There we go. Now it's facing down. Okay, so now that that's here, we take the Tree Fluid Extractor and we put it right in front of the log. This does not require power. It just slowly extracts latex out of the log, and the log slowly decays and breaks, which is why we need the block placer. So between this and the drawer, we're now going to add a conduit. And we're going to say this is an insert. We are not going to extract, and we need to put a filter in here because I'm going to be using that set of drawers to store the logs and also to put the dry rubber in. And we're going to set this to not olive wood, because as I found out, you can only use the basic logs for this. I completely forgot about that. So we're going to change that to spruce. And thankfully I have a ton of these logs and we don't need a ton of the rubber, so this will work out. So now we do that, and now we can load up the drawer with some of these. And for some reason it's been doing some weird stuff to me lately. Alright, I fixed it, but it looks weird. I think I need to restart my client entirely and try to fix that. There appears to be a bug with the drawers. Anyhow, so now we've got this loaded up. We can put the spruce wood in here. We can then turn this on and tell it to extract, and now it will start putting the logs in here. Okay, so now we can load that up with however much we want, and it will constantly replace this. Now that we have the latex coming into the tree, we then want to process it. So let's put the Latex Processing Unit, I don't know, right there. Let's give it some power. Okay. So this requires water and latex. So if you were paying attention, you know that it gave me a water source. So let's just put the water source on top. And now it's filling this up with water. And now we need to pipe the water up from the latex processor up to the fluid extractor. So standard way, just put fluid pipes. And now we have latex coming up here and auto processing into the tiny dry rubber. So let's take that and let's change this to insert or extract, and then put that in there. And now change this to extract and always. Alright, so I restarted and that fixed the drawer issue. It was apparently had a piece of olive wood stuck in it and got in a weird bugged out state. Okay, so now it's slowly eating up the spruce log. This will get destroyed and occasionally replaced by the block placer as soon as it's empty. The fluid extractor is now constantly draining into here, and now we have this constantly kicking out the dry rubber. So to the dried rubber, what we need to do with this is toss it in a crafting table and combine it, which makes it into the actual combined dry rubber. And you take those and you toss that into a furnace. And that makes the plastic. So now that we have plastic, we can go back into the Industrial Foregoing book and click these open. And now we have all this, and that's done. So this opens up almost all of the other machines in Industrial Foregoing, and it has a lot of stuff. A good chunk of it has to do with farms or manipulating animals or mobs, but we're looking for the Mob Crusher, which we're not actually blocked here because I need to make a mob imprisonment tool. Well, some good news. The mob imprisonment tool is already on my list of things to build. And if we open this up, you can see this is what I was actually getting the gas tiers for, was to get the mob imprisonment tool made. So it's just 4 plastic or rubber, which we have plenty of, a bunch of ender pearls, we have plenty of in the material. And that finishes up that step. So the next step is the Mob Crusher itself, which is all easy to make stuff now that we have plastic and machine casings. So this just kills mobs in a fairly large radius, and this is what we're going to use to kill everything in our mob farm. Well, and I forgot I was recording, and so I made the Mob Crusher, and then I cleared out our loot chests, and what we got was some ice, a cup of coffee, some pig iron, another solar generator, which is nice, and then some free transmission coils for thermodynamics dynamos, the things we put in the compression dynamo last time. So easy to make, but still fine to have for free. Alright, so I put a bunch of materials together. I've got the Mob Crusher ready to go. Let's go build some mob farm real fast. Give me a little bit to try to slap something together that doesn't look too hideous, hopefully. Alright, so I think I've actually made something suitably intimidating for the fact that we just made a mob farm. So we flip around here and you can see that I've got a basic cage set up. Doesn't look completely dark and there's glass in it, so you can see some light inside. So to explain what's going on here, we'll start with the Mob Crusher itself. If we look inside here, you'll notice that we have a range add-on. If we take this out and turn the working area on, you can see that it's only this column right here, which that's not useful to us. So if we put the Rangefinder 12 add-on in, all of a sudden it takes up the whole box. Now on the upside, you can just jump straight to the end. There's no upgrade path to this. And you can see that there's a whole chain of them, but like even the top level one doesn't require going to the previous ones. It's just a really simple recipe, and we have tons of emeralds. So jumping to the top range, it works fine for us in this case. And since it's constrained by the compact machine, it doesn't really matter. The next thing here is you can see the glass here. This is dark ineffable glass. So what this is basically a glass that blocks light from passing through it. So light can't actually enter the cage on the other side of this. The other property of ineffable glass is that we can walk straight through it. Players can pass through it, mobs cannot. The third important thing is you notice how this block is missing right here. It's because the compact machine walls actually generate light. So I left this in here just to display this, but we need to fill this back in to actually darken the whole cage so mobs can spawn in here. And the last step for our plan right now is the Drop of Evil. So the Drop of Evil drops off of Wither Skeletons in Nether Fortresses. The main use for it is the one we're about to use right now, where it turns dirt into Cursed Earth. Cursed Earth constantly spawns mobs. There you can see stuff spawning almost immediately inside it. You can hear stuff inside it. If we poke our head in, we'll get attacked. Yep. So that's what happens there. If Cursed Earth is exposed to light of any sort, it immediately ignites and sets on fire and destroys itself. So that's not useful. So let's turn the mob farm on. And now everything just starts dying. And you can see it collects in here as normal. We also get liquid essence, which we can use for something else later. For now, I'm just going to leave it in there until I need it. But let's start extracting stuff out. So it turned out the hardened servo wasn't fast enough, so I had to upgrade it to the Electrum one. But now you can see stuff dumping out of it, including a bunch of different types of armor. And this leads us to the next step. The armor can be passed into an arc furnace and melted down into ingots of a whole bunch of different types, a large chunk of which are the Twilight Forest ingots. It gives us a whole variety of stuff. It also gives us all sorts of better armor we can use in the future. That said, the only way to really manage the sheer amount of stuff we're going to be seeing coming out of here is going to be with an XNet system. We'll do that after we get the arc furnace set up, because we need it to be able to field all the different types of stuff into it and to properly be able to sort through all of the stuff that we have. And it's going to be kind of a tangled mess. But these pipes for now are just temporary until we get that set up. Alright, so probably notice that you can no longer hear the mobs at all. It's because I put some soundproofing on top of the mob cage because I got tired of hearing it too. Yeah. I also basically put together all of the materials to put together the arc furnace though, and that's very, very steel intensive. So let's take a look at it in the book. You can see right here it requires a whole lot of steel just blatantly in the form of the sheet metal and the slabs, some straight up blocks of steel, some scaffolding, well we know I get that for free, and then a whole bunch of reinforced blast bricks which all require a steel plate. Each one of those. So that involved a good chunk of the steel I had remaining. Thankfully I started cooking a ton more. In theory, I should probably automate it, but at the same point, I probably won't need a bunch for a little while. So maybe I'll get around to it, maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll see how lazy I am. The issue is I need to have infinite coal coming in before I can really do that, or I need to switch to the industrial craft version of it, one way or the other. All right, let's pop up the blueprint for it. I'm coming up here because this is a very big, chunky boy, and I think the only place I have room for is up here. Maybe I might increase the size of the mob farm actually now that I'm looking at it, because for some reason I thought it was only a 3-wide structure originally, but you know, it's fine up here for now. I can just pass pipes into it pretty easily enough. So let's put this down, I guess right by the edge. Let's see if I was facing the right way. I think so. Power on the left side, I think, and outputs on the right. So let's do this. And let me put this together. All right, assuming I put this right together, it should pop together. And there we go, one arc furnace. Alright, so the way this thing works is that it outputs from this cauldron right here. This is where the items come out. It inputs right here through that one, and these blocks right here are power. If you right click it, it brings you into this interface. This is where it drops all the items in, and these are the two outputs, if there are any. If we would need to plug power in for it to have power, and this is where we would need to put the electrodes in. We need to make the electrodes, and that's something I need to get on ASAP, because until we do that, we can't use this at all. So I'm going to go make some of those. We're going to put those in, and then I'm probably going to set up an XNet system next to pipe everything into here, because we need to filter pretty carefully. Like if we come down here now, after it's been running for a while, you can see how this chest is completely full. And the vast majority of what's in here, like these bows, the leather armor, can't be used at all. So that is not useful in the slightest. I've also got some of this automatically dumping out into the storage outside, although I don't know why this gunpowder's not going. I probably should look into what I broke, huh? So now that we've got a bunch of stuff in here, you can start to see we're starting to get some of the more interesting finds, like quantum suits, which is the top tier industrial craft armor and makes you pretty much invulnerable but requires a large power source. Or things like mana steel or terror steel, which can be melted down into the Botania ingots, which are a pain in the butt to make, especially terror steel. Or the Prudentium or Intermedium armors, which can be melted down into the mystical agriculture ones. You can go all the way up to Supremium for there. You can get almost close to the top tier ingots out of that. But there's a lot of stuff in here that we can just get very, very useful materials out of, and that's why we're doing this. Alright, so I went outside and made the electrodes, so let's go slot those in real fast, and they just go up in those slots at the top. So they eventually get used to it over time. You notice how they're 100%. The process for making these is kind of a pain in the butt. It's not that they're hard, it's that it uses these hot graphite ingots, which require hot graphite dust, which requires a ton of coke dust, which is just macerated coke. So it takes a stack and a half of coke to make enough for the 3 electrodes, which is why you definitely don't want to do these at 50%. So, lesson is, prep your coke well in advance before you go to a step where you need to start making an arc furnace. So, yeah, good thing I did that, huh? So the next thing is, while I was outside, I was futzing around, I remembered I could make the iron drum now. Because as part of that, because I opened up the extra utils page at one point and realized I could claim the resonator if I made these solar panels first, which are really, really simple to make. So I did that. And because I did that, I also get these two. And then I realized I could make the drums. I can't make the third step, that one requires a machine I don't have yet, but we can make the iron drum, which honestly isn't that complicated to make. It just requires a stone drum and a whole bunch of iron. And the stone drum just requires double compressed cobblestone, which we have a ton of, and stone burnt, which comes from the resonator, and it's just more stone. So we had all that, so I got that done. So we can actually store the essence now. I'll hook that up. But the other thing I did while I was outside is I got everything together for XNet. So if we come down here, you can see that I ripped all the cabling out now, and I ripped out the spot under the Mob Crusher because we need to give a power source for the controller for XNet to work with. So we just plop the energy cube right in there, and then now we have power again. Now what you need to do next is you attach a connector to the energy cube to extract power out of it. Not unlike you would put an energy duct or a conduit or something on it any other way. The connectors are a means of saying, I want to connect to this block. So we'll put that on there like that. The connectors aren't all that hard to make. They just require lapis lazuli plates, which is just, you put them in a compressor and they do that. And a dense plate of some sort. So gold or copper or bronze or steel, depending on how many you want. I generally just make them out of gold because you get 2 per, and I have tons of gold, whereas I don't have a ton of steel. So relatively simple to make. The advanced connector, however, is what we're actually using, which just requires diamond, an ender pearl, and a block of redstone in addition to that, because it transfers power faster, it transfers items faster, and it allows you to access the block that it's attached to from another side other than the one that it's actually attached to. So for things like a furnace, you could attach this to the side and still extract things out of the bottom. It's actually pretty neat for that. So let's attach another one to this and then run cabling up the side. I'm going to put the controller up at the top, and I'll just put it right here in the corner just to get it out of the way. So and we'll put a connector on top of that as well and run power to it. So now you can see that the controller had power, but now it's ticking down. So we need to actually add power to it. And you do that by right-clicking on the controller, clicking a channel in it between 1 and 8. It doesn't really matter which one. I'm going to use channel 1 for power. That's the one I usually do just so I don't lose it. And then pick what sort of thing you want to pass through the pipe. So in this case, I want energy, but there's gases, computer signals, logic signals, storage, items, liquid fluids, and whatnot. And you just create to add to the channel. The channel turns yellow in this case. We'll name it power. Once we've done that, you go into the energy cube, you create, and you want it to set to extract. So this will pull energy out of the cube. The next thing we do is we go to the controller and we do a create again, and you pick insert, and we raise the priority to higher than anything else on the network. In this case, it's going to be 1, because if the controller ever runs out of power, nothing in the next network works. So as you can see, it now has max power again because now it's constantly pulling out of the energy cube. So we'll go back in here and we'll also give power to the Mob Crusher now. Same thing, insert and 0, and that's done. Come back down here to the bottom and you can see that the Mob Crusher has power again. So let's turn this off so it's not running, because I don't really need it to for right now. We don't want it to fill up its inventory or just make a mess. And let's put the drum on it to show you how liquids work. Same thing, add another connector to the drum and go back in here. And now we want to create another channel, except in this case, we want it to run the XNet fluid one. And we'll do that and we'll say essence. Same sort of thing. We want it to, okay, lesson learned. Don't actually turn off the Mob Crusher because it removes us from this list, so it can't be meddled with. So we do this, so we've got the essence one we want to create and we want it to extract. And we put it on the barrel and we want it to insert. Same as before. And there you can see the essence drum is now filling up. So we've got a big, huge storage for it for a while. It'll probably fill up faster than I want it to, but there we go. So now that we've done that, we need to wire everything up to the arc furnace. Okay, so one of the things you can do is you can double click this because now I have two entries for the arc furnace because it has two spots. And we can click this and it'll show you which block it's actually coming from, which is important because we can only put power in this one. And then we should also wire up the output, which adds a third entry. Okay, I just realized something. I shouldn't have connected up the arc furnace right here because we actually need to connect this to a diamond anvil eventually. So it's going to be connected via duct to an anvil to a chest. So we will handle, let's see, duct, anvil, chest. So we'll put the crate right. Okay, and then we'll connect those up that way. And then we need another chest for output. And we're gonna go put this on the other side just so we don't lose track of where we put things and how we're handling it. So the trick is we're gonna want this one up in the air because we're gonna be sending a bunch of things into it selectively via filters. So, no, connector. Yep, there we go. And put the chest on top of that for now. And we'll come back to this in a little while. The first thing we need to do is grab a handful of things from the chest down there. And what we did is I grabbed some steel leaf armor, I grabbed some gunpowder and some bones, and I grabbed a bow. And another crate right there. So what we're gonna do with this setup right here is this chest is going to feed into a trash can. Once we know what the garbage loot is, things like this bow, we're just gonna vent them and get rid of them. This chest is going to be overflow for anything we don't know what it is currently. We're going to be fishing for certain types of armor we haven't seen before, because some of the stuff is relatively rare drop, and we're just going to have to wait till it shows up to be able to create full sets to properly filter them. And this chest is going to be a buffer overflow for the diamond anvil that will feed into the arc furnace eventually to repair things so we get more out of them. But for now, it's just going to feed directly in here. So let's just wire this up directly right now. So we'll feed this in like that. Okay. So what we need to do is go into the controller now and find out which each of these chests are and create an output. So first of all, let's create a new channel. We want this to be the item channel. We want to call this one the Mob Crusher because this is just going to be direct output from the Mob Crusher. So we can get items from it. And then we are going to go into each of these chests. We need to figure out which one is which though. Okay, so that's the one into the smelter, so that's good. So the very first one, we're going to go into here, we're going to create a whitelist, and we want it to take steel leaf armor. And we want to take all of the steel leaf armor. And we want to set this to priority 1 because we want all of the armor to go into that crate if it can. And that should be properly set up now. Now, the second one is this one. This is the overflow one. We're going to just create an input on that. We're going to make it priority 0, and we're just going to leave it open. We'll take anything it can if it can't go elsewhere. The next one is the trash can. So we'll go into that, we'll make this another insert, and we'll make this a whitelist that takes bows. And we'll make this priority 1 to throw away all of the bows. We have to toggle some of these. I can't remember if they're on or off by default. I think they're already on though. Or off. I think these are already turned off though. And then this last one will be the output, and we know that we want this to take things that we know exist, like gunpowder and bones that already are in or stored outside, so we can ship these directly out. And then we need to add the Mob Crusher, and we need to make this an extract out of it. And then we can start to see what happens. So as you can see, we're starting to get snowballs and arrows and a Tinker's Construct weapon, which I didn't think we were getting these days, but they're starting to show up. So we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna have to vent these into the trash can eventually. Rotten flesh. So all of this is stuff that we can start putting into the whitelist filters to take them out. This is also why we're adding multiple contacts to the final output one so that we can add a whole bunch of different types. So now that we have some of these, we can add these directly to the list and they'll start filtering into our output crate. But eventually we will fill up all of these slots, and then we'll have to add another input to it. It will create another line on a different side because this says down, and we can do other one. We can select other connectors to it to add to it. This is going to be more important for the armor chests though, which require a humongous amount of them. Because as you can see, each set of armor takes 4, and there's a lot of sets of armor we can send. And yep, you can see bows are starting to get tossed into the output. So now let's go add the arrows as well. In theory, we can use arrows to grind them up into like flint or something, but I just don't see the point. They come in too fast, and there's just too many of them to just want to care about it at all. Anyhow, all that's left to do at this point is to continue adding armor sets, and we can start seeing how the arc furnace works. Well, I goofed and forgot. The orange out the back isn't the input, it's an output. It's for the secondary outputs. The inputs are on top. Give me a minute to reconfigure. Alright, you can see now that they're going in there and they're getting chewed up and turned into steel leaf. So, now we can extract out of this into the output chest, and we'll have to put everything in there into the final chest as well. So let's create another item one so we don't get this mixed up. And we will call this one Arc Furnace. This way it can't fall into the other chain at all and get mixed up with the other items. So now we want the Arc Furnace output to extract, and we want it to send to the output chest. And bingo, the steel leaf is there. So now I just have to add this to the output and then connect this to an exit on the wall, move the tunnel up here, and we're pretty much done with the mob farm. You know, other than filling in all the filters. So I'm going to call that good for now and get this done. It's kind of a mess, but it works, so who cares? And we'll probably get the diamond anvil added next time. Alright folks, so that felt like kind of a long journey today, but now we have a fully functional mob farm. We've gotten started on Industrial Foregoing. So we've moved forward quite a bit, and now we're going to have even more fun materials to work with, including a whole bunch of block types made from Twilight Forest metals. So that should be fun and interesting, maybe, possibly, kinda, I don't know, we'll find a use for it. But anyways, as always, I'm Ard, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.